The Chair of Public Works Committee. It is December 3rd, 2008, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Greg Smith. So we now have a quorum of 2 out of the 3 council members, so we can begin our city business. Mr. Smith, we have on consent, first of all, we have an item 8, and item 8, I'm being asked to continue it by CD 15 for 30 days. So moved on item 15 will be continued for 30 days. Then we have on consent items 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There seems to be, kumbaya on these.
There is on 1?
1, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Okay.
So moved. So we have now disposed of items 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. That leaves 3 items left on the agenda, item 2, item 7, and item 9. Now, if anybody was here for those other ones, it's been approved and moved out of committee. You don't need to spend any more time up here in the room if you were here for either 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. Okay? We're all clear on that. Okay. So that leaves 2, 7, and 9. Are all the parties here for 2? Would you raise your hand if all the parties are here? And just before we officially get into it, have you all had a meeting at 2 o'clock today? Yes. Okay. Just wanted to know that for the record. Okay. Could we please read what item 2 is?
Item number 2, City Engineer Report relative to the vacation of the alley southeasterly of Bixel Street from 6th Street to approximately 420 feet southwesterly thereof. Vacation number E1401027.
Very good. On this item, we have 4 cards and maybe a 5th, no? That's all number 9. Okay, great. Okay, we have actually 5 cards on item number 2. And we have some backup paperwork here as well. Okay, we have one for item 2 that doesn't say if they're for or against or in general comment. That's Hamid. Hamid, what are you, for, against? Yeah, I know. It depends, sir. So then, are you basically a general comment?
When did you get elected to the city council?
You sound like an elected is right. Okay, of those for the proposal, we have 1, 2, 3 for it. We have 1 against, and we have 1 who will see what happens with it. So why don't we start with the 3 who are, well, no, the 1 who's against the proposal first. Hannah, Y-O-O-N.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Hannah Yoon, and I'm representing Jameson 1055 Wilshire LLC. We're one of the 3 owners on that same block affected by the alley vacation, including G.H. Palmer, the applicant, and Central City Development Corporation. At this point, really, we've had the meeting at 2 o'clock, and we've discussed several different types of solutions. And what I think, if we just meet more and talk about it, I think we can really come to a solution in a very timely manner. So at this point, what we'd like to do is request that this item be continued for a period of 30 days. There were a couple of solutions that we suggested, such as like a complete alley vacation or some other issues that were previously on the table that G.H. Palmer had proposed before. And we just want to get to a written agreement. And that's why I feel 30 days is a reasonable period of time where we can discuss this and come to a conclusion. And I know that the mayor's office wants to push it, so we don't want to delay it that long. But that's what we're looking for.
The mayor and Councilman Reyes, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been providing leadership on that.
Right.
But I'm just curious, what do you need 30 days for? If
We want to come to a written agreement. I mean, we just met with all 3 property
Sure.
owners about 3 or 4 weeks ago,
Yeah.
and some solution was thrown on the table that we thought was great, and everybody had agreed. And so we were waiting for revised drawings as well as a written agreement, and we haven't reached.
Fair enough, and I appreciate, Hannah, your comments. So can we now have those that I just mentioned that are for the proposal come up. We have Greg Smith. Is that you?
Oh, man, I hope not.
Who's for the proposal. We have Ben Resnick, we have Kevin McDonald, and we have our friend Hamid near the edge. Okay, so can we start with you, Kevin?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, let's...
Oh, is that Mr. Smith?
go.
Great. Well, look at here.
The other Greg Smith?
See that?
The one that makes real money?
Got a white tie on, too. He must be the,
Thank you.
Okay, Greg, you're up.
Thank you. Greg Smith with the developer and applicant. Piero 2 is on the photograph here. Phase 2, we're delighted to report in today's market. We stand ready to go. The developer is committed, and we're removing finance contingencies. The project was originally approved in late 2006. It's 335 market rate rental units. It was always contemplated that the project would have an alley vacation, and so we've been working for more than a year to perfect that and to come with what we believe is a workable compromise with our neighbors. So Ben Resnick is here to present the conditions and findings associated with it.
Before he does, Greg, you heard Hannah Yom speak. She said it was a productive meeting. She's looking for the fine print, something in writing. Are you amenable to that?
We would like to move forward with the project immediately.
But why not see it in writing where one would feel?
No, let me
Please go ahead.
let me just answer that, since I was in the meeting and Greg was
Sure.
not. And
Oh.
what's before us
Okay.
today?
Introduce yourself.
Oh,
for
I'm
the
sorry,
record.
Ben Resnick, Jeffrey Mangles, for the record. The portion of the alley being asked to vacate today is not relevant to any future vacation of the rest of the alley. What Ms. Yoon is talking about is vacating the rest of the alley, which we will not object to. I'll state that on the record. And so moving forward today with that is independent of the rest of the alley being vacated. And the agreement she's referring to would be an agreement that would be amongst the property owners who border that portion of the alley. And that's, Hamid is here to speak to that property owner, and I'm stating for Mr. Palmer that to the extent we have a little piece of that alley, we do not object to a vacation. But we need to move forward today, otherwise this project will not get started as it is, as you've heard, it is ready to break ground. And
The
Appreciate
developer has no objections to what's being proposed, and I think the photograph shows the relationship of their properties to ours. And
So you're talking about the purple portion, she's talking about the pinkish.
correct, and that really has no impact on our.
Are you in agreement with that understanding?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I mean, because there were a couple solutions. One of them was complete vacation, and the other one was as a solution.
You need to speak on the
You
record.
have to do that on the record. And City Attorney, I want you to help me at the right point on this particular discussion going on.
Do you want me to come out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
please, yeah.
To vacate there.
We had discussed a couple different solutions.
Name in the record.
Oh, I'm sorry, Hannah Yoon, Jameson 1055 Wilshire LLC.
Yeah.
And so we had discussed a couple different options. One of them was the option that we had discussed at our last meeting, and it seems like there's some difficulties because of some building and safety issues, but I think there's ways that we can work around it. And the other issue was a complete alley vacation, and that we could talk about a little bit more, but we had discussed in the past. And so I think that even if we do a complete alley vacation, it does entail the northern part of the alley as much as it does the southern part of the alley, and that's why we would like to connect the discussion and just have that.
What about what they're saying, that, the purple's the purple and the other can be dealt with later? They want to get going on that end.
Well, there was also discussion that the hammerhead would be removed at a later point if the alley was vacated. I mean, we just want to make sure that all these loose ends are tied up before. So in a written agreement, and all parties are on the same
Okay,
page.
why don't you sit in the front row in case we want to ask you some more questions. You're up, Kevin.
Kevin McDonald, Jeffrey Mangles. What we're proposing is to accept the conditions of the recommended vacation by the Bureau of Engineering as illustrated there. The pink area is the area that would remain public alley. The only condition that we object to, of course, is condition number 9, which insists upon the consents and waivers of the Jameson property owner that Ms. Yoon represents, that doesn't even actually abut any portion of the alley that is to be vacated. We are willing to continue to work with them. And part of the solution was that at some future date, of course, would have to be accompanied by a new application by those adjoining property owners
Yeah.
to vacate the portion that is left over. We would not object to that, as Mr. Resnick says, so long as the entire length of the alley would remain free and clear for vehicular access from 6th Street to Wilshire. But that, as I say, requires initiating a brand-new application, which is going to take some time. And this was actually approved. I brought for you to review just the cover sheet of the actual entitlement approval from 2006. And you'll notice on condition 2 that that approval contemplates the vacation of the alley. It assumed that it would go forward, and the design was actually dependent upon that. And with that turnaround, I think Mr. Yu included that as a condition, because if for whatever reason the rest of the alley is not vacated, what's left over in that pink portion is a 100% perfectly legitimate public alley, having access to Wilshire on the southerly end and a compliant fire department, DOT Hammerhead on the northerly end. So that's how the city has created a condition whereby if for whatever reason it wasn't completely done, it would still be perfected. I also have some letters that we actually responded to from Jameson Properties that we obtained from the file. And I just want you to have these so you can see the efforts that we have gone through to address all the concerns. And the letter that I'm passing out here, it was our response, and we have addressed all of the concerns that were originally raised. And as I say, we're willing to continue to work with them so everybody could get the ultimate solution that they're looking for.
I'm just curious one thing, and I know Mr. Smith wants to ask questions, and I'd like to get the city attorney's and our staff's opinion too. What's the big deal about waiting 30 days? What does that do in a backlog sense
Sure.
of what needs to be done?
We already have a construction barrier that's blocked this alley for the last 2 years. So there's not been an issue in terms of through traffic. No one uses this alley. Okay. The project's got its financing in place, and as Mr. Smith said, ready to start tomorrow. We're really at that place. If we delay the project and we go into next year, which was what's going to happen if you delay anything, we can't start anything having to do not only with the construction, but we need to process this alley vacation. It'll take several months. Part of what we need to do while the city processes the vacation is we're also going to ask for an encroachment permit, in other words, a revocable permit to start construction this month on this alley, and we're going to move things as quickly as we can. I know that, and I certainly discussed that with Councilman Reyes earlier today. I know we've been discussing it with the mayor's office. Everyone seems to want to see the construction start. We're doing everything we can. The reason I don't think it's fair for Jameson to ask for a continuance at this point in time is because there have been multiple meetings with them in the past. It's not like we have ignored them. And we've just not been able to reach an agreement with them. The fact that doesn't mean we won't, and doesn't mean we won't agree to let them vacate the rest of the alley that abuts their property. And so the two really are separate. And I think what you're hearing is the Jameson Group may be trying to exert some leverage over us by simply saying, well, hold off their alley vacation until we see what kind of terms we can negotiate between two private property owners.
Mr. Smith.
I have a question for Ms. Yoon. I'm reading your letter about your concerns here on the alley and trash pickup and deliveries coming from 6th Street. What's the difference if it comes from Wilshire or 6th Street?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat?
Okay, your letter dated December 12th, 2007, to the City of LA was concerned about deliveries coming in from 6th Street during construction being disrupted and trash pickup coming in from 6th Street during construction. Why can't they come in from Wilshire? Particularly because the turnaround will be closer than it will be to 6th Street anyway.
Right. I mean, again, this application also has gone through several permutations as well. So, I mean, when I wrote certain letters, they were also at different stages of the alley vacation application.
Okay.
So at some points it was closed off, and some points it was a tunnel, and right now it's a tunnel at this point. But our concern basically was we have deliveries that come from 6th Street, and it was easier for them to come that way.
But it's not going to block their access. It's just easier for the delivery truck.
Right. Yeah. But can I just address something that,
Please go for it.
yeah, that Mr. Resnick had said? And I mean, when we had met with G.H. Palmer's representatives, and we only met once, I think, with Hamid Bedad, something that was thrown on the table was any of these associated fees, including a complete alley vacation, those costs would be borne by G.H. Palmer. So in that sense, it is something that we do need to discuss before.
Okay. So what fees, other fees would there be, other than if they want a complete vacation of the alley,
It was also maintenance fees,
maintenance for your property?
including our property,
Why
for
should
the
we-
entire alley. That was just something that they threw out on the table.
They threw out. You offered that?
Well, I wasn't in the meeting, but it was obviously not accepted because they wanted a lot more.
Okay.
I mean, I can show you something that this is from before, but they had included maintenance, security, and also, processing fees
Processing for what?
for the alley vacation application.
Application, okay.
And when we couldn't get a deal done is when the Bureau of Engineering came up with the hammerhead solution saying, okay, Mr. Palmer, you cannot vacate all the way to the end of your property. You have to leave a portion open for the Jameson Group to have a turnaround as a public alleyway. So we are giving up land that we could develop on to create a public turnaround. That's the hammerhead. And that's a condition that the Bureau of Engineering imposed that we're
And
not
fire department.
and fire department, and we're not objecting to that. And I might add that, and this is the fundamental to this whole discussion, the law only requires the consent of property owners who adjoin and abut the portion of the alley being vacated. So,
Any other questions?
thank you.
Okay, staff, would you comment? And
We have
city attorney?
Habib,
Do you want to speak now? Oh, okay. I'm just wondering where I'm going to put my little X.
And we have Edmund Yu with the Bureau of Engineering.
Yeah, good.
For the record, my name is Hamid Pedat with Central City Development Group. We are the developer for a 52-story high-rise building adjacent to this alley, which I brought some pictures to just share to give you some visual, basically, tools. That's our project. And an overview of this alley because you have been listening to the partial truth. The other part I'd like to address. Conditions of the alley at this point.
this would be, that's that building, so this is the property. So Hamid's property is this one.
How big is your structure, by the way?
52 stories.
So this will be catty corner.
No difference. Where the parking structure and the land is, that's all.
Okay, go for it.
So the history of alley vacation goes back to about 2005 or 6. We have agreed to completely vacate the alley. However, later on, we have realized that we do need circulation of the alley adjacent to our project. Therefore, we have agreed, based on a document, which is a binding document with J.F. Palmer, which Public Works has a copy of it, that we will agree to subsurface vacation as well as partial basically airspace vacation. Now, we do not have any objection toward Jeff Palmer going forward with airspace vacation, partial airspace vacation, as well as subsurface vacation. However, in the recent meeting, by the way, for the record, I have not been at 2 p.m. meeting this afternoon, so I want to make that clear. On a recent meeting,
Were you invited?
no, I was not. The subsurface vacation, again, recently we have been notified of some sort of a potential agreement between Palmer and City of Hope building owner, Jameson Properties, that at that cul-de-sac there might be a location for the trash container that you could see right there. We obviously strongly opposed to that because we have a $300 million project. We're not going to be looking at the trash bin for the rest of our lives and smell it. Now, I fully agree with Mr. Ben-Resnick that the vacation of the alley between Amidi Real Estate Group 1027 LLC and Jeff Palmer really doesn't have much to do with the City of Hope building because we are adjacent properties and we have come up with a full agreement based on this document and we will honor that, so do they. But I just want to make sure for the record that I'm not going to agree with any trash container being put across my project for the next 50 years or so. No matter what the agreement between Palmer and Jameson, Dr. Lee is. As far as vacation of the alley between Dr. Lee and Amity Real Estate Group, we have no problem with that. Again, subsurface, airspace, that's fine, but we must remain vehicular access. For one thing, City of Hope, as you can see, has 2 fire exits, must remain unobstructed. They have loading entrance and exit from their garage. We have 2 existing driveway to our existing parking structure and 1 proposed one for our 52-story high-rise building. Therefore, the alley the surface of alley has to stay open to vehicular access. That's just the intention of the City of Los Angeles. In fact, for the record, City of LA Department of Transportation states that on their letter that it has to stay open, and they agree with subsurface vacation. I just want to make sure that no matter what agreement is, 2 things should be guaranteed for us. Number 1, the alley will stay open to the vehicular access. Number 2, there's no trash bin being installed on a private property for the use of third party against our property.
Fair enough.
Thank you, sir.
Whose bin is this?
City of Hope, Jameson property,
Jameson
Dr.
property?
Lee.
And it's permitted?
No,
It's not a permitted?
no, it's not a permitted.
Okay.
We just have been a good neighbor.
Looking at
not,
it, I just
yeah.
said that couldn't be permitted.
Yeah, we have
So,
Be a good neighbor.
in my simple mind, you want us to approve this or not?
We want to approve if you remove condition number 9, meaning that Dr. Lee doesn't have any saying to do with the subsurface and aerospace vacation of the alley between Amity and Palmer. Because if they go ahead and do some agreement with Dr. Lee to put the trash bin in there, we're going to be opposing it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Confirm that on the record.
Would you? Yeah. You feel the same about number 9?
We do. We think number 9 needs to be just limited to the 2 properties that adjoin the alley vacation. And number 2, to give Mr. Badat some comfort, on behalf of Jeff Palmer, we certainly agree that any future alley vacations should not permit obstructions in the alleyway, and it should be open.
Fair enough. Staff, could you react to all this, please? Our august city family here.
You look a lot like Chris Westhoff.
Yeah, I know.
I'm telling you, guys are twins.
I decided to get a little edgy for that
Totally
last
confused.
16 months.
Yeah,
you know.
okay.
Go ahead.
Edmund Yu from Public Works Engineering. The application that's proposed, the Bureau of Engineering has no problem to recommend for the conditional approval as long as there's a turnaround area at the new terminus of the public alley. That's the key. One thing that the committee may want to consider regarding the 30 days is that between now and the City Council formal approval, there will be at least a month and a half to 2 months. So that may be the time that they can use to
Why
go
a
through
month and a
that.
half to 2 months? What's the problem?
Well, a formal vacation, you have to serve the public notice, that's the 30-day notice, and
All right.
schedule items, and that takes about,
That's after council action.
no,
It's-
that's correct.
Yeah.
So after
Right,
we
that's,
accept
I'm
this-
sorry, that's
That's
correct.
after this.
Right,
Yeah.
right, that's correct, yes.
So this goes to council,
Right.
then you do the formal.
Right, the formal public hearing will need to be notified, and that will take time, yes.
Okay, and during
Right.
that normal, formal public hearing and that time frame, could her issues be worked out?
Maybe.
Even though it's not relevant to this vacation?
Well, there will be time, there will be at least that much time that for them to have additional meetings.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
fine, thank you.
I just here to answer any questions
Well,
that you get
you
that the
agree
council.
that we can move forward with this
Well-
from a legal standpoint?
Absolutely. There is a city policy that the city council has
Name for the
imposed.
record.
Christopher Westhoff, Assistant
you are?
City Attorney, Public Works General Counsel. There's a city policy about notifying people within a certain area of a potential vacation, but the actual legal requirement is that you have adjoining property owners who, because they have reciprocal rights in that public right-of-way, there are issues. Even if we were to vacate it, the adjoining property owners could still potentially have reciprocal rights against one another. In this particular instance, it's my understanding that they're going to leave the alley for private access to both the property above and below the alley. As relative to the turnaround, obviously if you have only a one single entrance alley, you need something to turn around. anything in that alley, as long as it remains a public alley, is the purview of the city of Los Angeles and not any agreement between private property owners. So if that pink portion remains a public dedicated alley, the city would have control over whether a trash bin would. Now, once we vacate it and it becomes private property, then it becomes an issue as to
But
the
that's a
private
later
between
issue.
Yeah.
correct
The trash
among
bin.
the private
Can we
property
get rid of
owners.
that trash bin tomorrow?
The city could request that the property owner at 1055 remove that trash
Okay,
bin if it has not received a permit.
Okay, can we go forward on that and find that out? Somebody here in this?
I can tell you, as
You're restricted.
one of the problems with downtown, unfortunately, has been that the way the city was configured with narrow alleys and so forth and narrow streets,
Yeah.
there are not a lot of positions for trash bins to be placed. And so there are a lot of trash bins
Well,
downtown.
I would like us to look into the situation and keep him in the loop on that, because I'm compelled by what he showed me.
And that would be permitted by the Bureau of Street Services if there is a permit, so that's the.
We'll look
Okay,
into
I will
that.
follow up on that.
Okay, fine. Mr. Smith, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I move that we approve. And can we get, last council day is the 17th?
Yes.
I think so. Would we have it to council by the 17th, which would give Ms. Yoon a couple weeks to sit down and try and get whatever she can get, whatever they're willing to agree to. I'm not saying I'm willing to agree to any of those points, because I don't think that's our requirement, that's our responsibility. But
Yes,
give her
we-
an opportunity to continue to negotiate.
Yes, we can
17th?
schedule it for December 17th.
Okay, so motion has been made. Of course, I will second that. It will go on the 17th, and hopefully you all can get together on some of those other issues.
Yeah, I
that
think
need to be done.
Mr. Resnick has raised the issue about the modification to Condition 9. You are
Right.
not requiring the agreement
That's
of the
correct.
property owner at
Deleting-
That's
1055.
inherent
Deleting
in-
number 9.
In his motion,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
So for the record, then we are removing condition number 9 or
Removing,
modifying?
yes.
Modifying,
Removing.
modifying,
Modifying.
modifying. I can give you the new language on that.
I will need the new language.
You're
then.
modifying just the one property owner.
That's
then,
correct.
Instead of the normal, okay.
Okay? Okay. Are we all clear now, everybody? Thank you. I want to see those structure going up real quick now. No more waiting around. Oh, Lord.
Developer's friend, Bill Ross.
How do I just let, now I gotta make it.
Yeah, you can shrink that down to be really, because it's really hard
Okay,
to store
folks,
outside.
we're moving right along. We're done with item number 2. Now we have item number 7.
Item number 7, Board of Public Works Report and Initial Study / Negative Declaration, number BE 368-08, relative to the widening of Magnolia Boulevard, Cahuenga Boulevard to Vineland Avenue project.
Thank you. Staff, on this one?
Bureau of Engineering, we would like to
Bring
move
the
forward.
mic closer to you and state your name also.
My name is Marla Swipe, Bureau of Engineering, Council Board Liaison. We'd like to move forward with this item. We have Julie Van Wagner of our environmental group to answer any questions that you may have on this item.
Great. Where is she? Come on up. You didn't have to schlep here for nothing. We got to get Jeff.
They're really not good. I also brought up Ramnik Mangra. He is the project manager for this project.
Great. I'll pass the buck to Mr. Smith. Any questions?
I have more questions. Nope.
I don't have any either.
Everybody's happy.
All right.
I thought this was going to go consent, actually, but.
Yeah, but we just wanted to make sure you had that. Okay. Do we have a card? Anybody here want to speak on this item? I didn't see any cards. Okay, we have a motion on that?
So move.
So moved. Thank you so much
All
for
right.
coming. Now we're down to item number 9.
Item number 9, continued from June 4, 2008 and November 19, 2008. City engineer reports, finding, and statement of overriding considerations, mitigation monitoring program, and final environmental impact report. State Clearinghouse number 200-303-1001, relative to the Venice Pumping Plant dual force main sewer.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to ask public comment first, and I would like city staff to respond if they need to on this, and we'll start with that as a process. I have 1, 2,
No, cut that.
2 generals, 3 against, 4 against. So let's have the 4 against first. Come on up, and we'll start with Daniel Gottlieb. Is Daniel Gottlieb here? Yes. Okay, Daniel, come on up. And Ann, is that
Friel.
Friel? Hi, Ann.
Hi.
And is this Valerie Lasessi? Good to have you. And David Levine? Great, come on up. Okay. We'll start with you, Ann.
Oh, okay, well, I made some notes. Let me get my
Sure.
glasses.
Great.
My name is Ann Friel, and I work for, I think, David Nagel. I think you know David. And
David
at
who?
David Nagel at Deck Run
Sure.
Properties.
Yeah.
And Terry Isaac I'm her boss. So we own and manage the Bay Club Apartments in Marina, located at 14035 Tahiti Way, directly off Via Marina. And Valerie is actually the business manager. Along with other business owners, residents, and boaters, we're opposing the location of the sewer project along Via Marina because we're really concerned about the impact that this project will have on our residents. We have more than 400 residents. On our boaters, we have 205 boat slips. And being perfectly honest, right now, this is a really challenging market. We are at 10% vacant right now. And it's only going to get worse. We're only going to have to try harder to attract people to our community. When the street is torn up, it's going to have a really negative effect on our business. And in fact, if things get worse, which they could, and they definitely would if the streets are torn up and people move out because they're inconvenienced and other people don't want to take the trouble to negotiate the traffic and just won't move back into our property, and we could actually be forced into bankruptcy, and I don't think you guys want that. I know there are other alternatives to locating and I know that the sewer is necessary. I think we all realize that, but there are other alternatives that will make more sense and be less disruptive to our business, less disruptive to other businesses in the area, to our residents, to our boaters, and to all the 3,800 other units and boat slips.
Appreciate that very much. Valerie, since you're both together, why don't you speak second?
All right. My name is Valerie Lasessi. I'm the business manager of the Bay Club. As not only a resident of the marina for 7 years, I've been visiting the marina since the 70s when the black whale was there. People are very loyal to the marina. Part of its charm is the smaller town feel of that area. And in fact, completely unrelated, the other day I was speaking to a resident and she stated she's so loyal to the marina that they will take her out feet first. What I worry about is, as being a business manager and choosing property management, the residents' needs come first. And the smallest changes do upset them. This is their home. They may not be a homeowner in the marina, but this is still their apartment home. And as such, you want to come home to a pleasant atmosphere. Having gone through several renovations in the marina area, I too can attest to the noise, the dust, the trucks, the dropped pieces of gravel on our roadways. And it's just a very disruptive atmosphere to come home to in the evening. And many of them don't work, or they work out of their homes, so they're going to hear that all day, every day, and you can't escape it when you're there. You can't escape it when you're a resident. And as Ann mentioned, being at a 10% vacancy ratio right now, it is going to financially impact our business. And so speaking as both a resident of the marina and a business person, I can see both sides of it. And as both sides of it, it does not or will not positively affect us for some time. So.
Well, thank you very much for your...
Can I ask both of them, when you say business, what kind of businesses are you talking about?
Property management, we manage apartment homes.
Just apartments, so,
Apartment and marina.
Right.
So we have 205 apartments, and we have
235. No, 205, sorry.
205, sorry, and then 252 boat slips.
so when you say business, you're not talking about a restaurant or a clothing store. You're talking about residential uses.
Talking about residential uses. But this is, people driving back and forth
I
on Via
understand.
Marina. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
I just want to clarify, 'cause my perception was this was residential, and you said
Yeah.
businesses. I'm thinking, what do they got down there that I didn't ever realize?
Oh, I wrote a wonderful statement, but I was a little nervous,
Okay.
so,
I'm glad. We just want to clarify. Okay, thank you.
We're just great.
sorry.
All right, Daniel Gottlieb?
Okay, my name is Daniel Gottlieb, and I live on Via Dolce in the city. And first, I'm going to mention something that David Barish wrote in a letter to you and to Mr. Doty. And he says, we are Marina Del Rey as an organization. It's disturbed to find that not only has the City of Los Angeles not followed CEQA statutes in involving Marina Del Rey community members, both the City of LA and the Incorporated County in the NOP and the DEIR process, but your department has failed to include significant comments made by the Los Angeles County Department of Beaches and Harbors on the NOP and the DER of June 2005. And this is a county letter dated June 9th, 2005, which I think was also included in another letter to you. In that second letter, it mentions that you didn't give any consideration to the projects that are scheduled there. And in fact, it lists several of them. And one of them is the Delray Shores, which wasn't even analyzed at all, at least in your DEIR, you had a list of 15, but it was expanded just, and the Delray Shores is only 90 feet away from where this pipe is going. And finally, in my own letter to you, I used the Google Maps to make the argument that there's probably more people in the city being impacted by the route down the line than there are in the beaches. And I found that I made a miscalculation. The part of the pipeline that I wasn't looking at, which goes through Playa del Rey, is actually going right down streets, whereas the beach doesn't affect anybody. So,
Thank you. Appreciate your comments on that. David?
Good afternoon, members. My name is David Levine. I'm president of the Marina Del Rey Lessees Association, which represents the leaseholders throughout the marina. I have, as a practical matter, I think everyone has agreed that the project's important. What's at issue here is really what is the most expeditious way of getting this important project built. I would tell you that our examination of the EIR is that it is flawed, and that proceeding with this project with the current EIR is likely to lead to a protracted litigation that's going to delay the project. So I would propose the following. First, that you continue this matter for a period of 60 days, and during that time you continue with discussions between the county and the city that I think could be very fruitful in coming to a common resolution of this issue. And secondly, I would propose that there be some consideration of a fourth alternative, if you will. Just to review, the beach alternative, which seems to be preferred by people that actually live in this area, you heard last time, is rejected by the Coastal Commission and other environmental groups. As a practical matter, I don't buy the argument that the redundancy is a serious flaw of the beach proposal. Second proposal, Pacific Avenue, which the city has gone to great lengths to demonstrate to be the most problematic, as actually deemed in the EIR the most environmentally superior of the options. So it strikes me that you're opening yourself up to significant challenge if you go ahead and not proceed with what is considered to be the most environmentally superior option in the EIR. The third option is Via Marina, as you've heard, impacts the most people, not just the most city residents, but also the most residents in Marina del Rey in the unincorporated county. I'd also note last time a correction of your city council. There is county right-of-way, a parking lot here, which is deemed to be necessary to the project in the EIR. The rules are different there than just going down Via Marina itself. That also leads one to believe that the Via Marina alternative will be problematic. So I want to propose that there be some examination of the possibility of building a portion of this along the west embankment of the Bayona Lagoon. There is a public works project which has been long on the drawing boards in that area. You could actually go from the Venice Force Main plant all the way down to Topsail without impacting any streets whatsoever, without any impacting any private homes whatsoever. So I think that offers an alternative that literally might conceivably, if designed appropriately, might only affect 6 homes as opposed to more homes along Pacific Avenue and obviously the thousands of residents that are along Via Marina. So I would, again, in summary, and I appreciate your giving me some extra time, propose a continuation for 60 days, and secondly, urge that there be some further analysis and consideration of a fourth alternative.
Appreciate that. And Steph, when you come up, do respond to his fourth suggested option. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Nancy Vernon Marino, and is it Aaron Clark? And both are general comments.
A letter for each, for Commissioner.
Nancy Vernon, is that you?
That's me, yes. Okay. Good afternoon, I'm Nancy Vernon Marino. We submitted a many-page letter to you following the last hearing. When we had the continuation for 2 weeks, we did undertake quite a bit of public outreach that's described in the letter. I don't have time to cover that right now. We got 2 pages worth of public responses back from people in the area, which we have filtered for things that have not already been included in the FEIR, including the location of the sewer pipes adjacent to water mains, the serpentine path that the pipeline will take along Via Marina, impacts to the seawall of vibrations during excavation and microtunneling, obstructions that might be encountered in this landfill, which has happened at other sites, the construction hours and continuous boring possibility has not been addressed, and the number of oil wells underneath the Via Marina alignment and the safety hazards, as well as quite a few comparative issues regarding which site location. There is another attachment with We Are Marina del Rey's discussion of several key issues. We support the environmentally superior alternative that was identified in the FEIR, which is alternative 4 of the mined tunnel. It's a deep tunnel operation, which would go primarily under the lagoon, but also under a few houses. There is nowhere that I could find in the final EIR that gives any reason for rejection, although it says many places in the FEIR that they have to give a reason for rejecting this alternative.
Sure you explain that one too in your comments.
And I'm running out of time here, but I wanted to get to my main thing, which is that that there was no additional analysis or research needed, and the fact that the piecemeal CEQA analysis and those 2 issues we've gone into in quite a bit of detail here. If I could have a little extra time, I can try to summarize it for you. Okay. The CEQA analysis, the issue is there. The CEQA analysis rejected a public comment that the general plan, that the development was violating CEQA because it was piecemealing and it needed to be looked at in the entire Venice area. This was rejected because the general plan has been subject to previous environmental review and it has its EIR, therefore the main project does not represent piecemeal. Well, there is no functional general plan for the unincorporated marina, let alone one that has been subjected to a previous environmental review. That's because our land use plan is not being followed. That is our general plan, and it is being completely disregarded with all of the projects that have been presented, at least that we found out about in the marina. Now, some of those projects have been given to you by the county in their letter of November 19th, updating Table 1.7-1, but not all of them. They left out, excuse me if I can find it, parcels 95, parcel IR, the remainder of parcel 20, parcel OT, parcel 27, parcels 33, and parcel NR. All of those are in the immediate impact area, and we feel that you don't have adequate information to draw the conclusions that you have to make any determination that for project location. So we are asking you to please, I think the continuation for 60 days might be a really good idea. We could get you a full list of projects. I think the county should have done that in 2005 or at some point along the way, but we will attempt to bring that information to you as best we can. If we could have a little extra time. And I apologize for any typos in the letter. I didn't have a chance to proof it.
Thank you, Nancy. And
Thank you very much.
I do want staff to respond to Nancy's thoroughness and all the outreach that we did with her in your remarks.
Okay.
And now we would like, first for the record, I'm joined by Richard Alarcon. All three of us are here on this issue. And now we have Aaron Clark. Hello, Aaron.
Hello, Chairman. Aaron Clark from Armbruster and Goldsmith. We represent a number of Marina Del Rey lessees. So today I'm here talking on behalf of Tahiti Marina Apartments and Docks, which is actually right next door to the Bay Club and would be impacted by the Via Marina alignment acutely. Neptune Apartments in Anchorage, which is at the corner of Marquesas and Via Marina, so it's directly at the doorstep of this project on Via Marina. Woodfin Suite Hotel, which is exactly due south of that project and is also on the doorstep of Via Marina. And then Pacific Ocean Management, which is in the process of redeveloping several leaseholds in the marina. I signed up as a general comment because I'm not opposed to this project. It's obviously needed. I'd just like to support the request of various speakers today that this item be continued so that the city can continue its good work with the Supervisor Kanabe's office and try to reach an acceptable solution. And, we've looked at the EIR. There's, some concerns with that. They've been stated today. I won't go into that. There is a county permitting process. I know that this has to be approved by the county. So, of course, hopefully there can be some cooperation at some level whereby the county and the city get on the same page because
That would be a first.
I know, but I'm still hopeful. Because the county's effluent does wash into this line also. So hopefully there is a way that a compromise or some kind of alignment that meets both your needs can be reached. So with that, I'll end my remarks and thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for your comments as well. Staff, come on up. Is Paula Daniels in the room? I saw her earlier. Okay. First, for the record, I met with my colleague, Supervisor Don Kanabe, earlier in the week, as did staff, where we had a very thorough discussion of what we're doing, why we're doing it, what the options were, similar to what we went through in the more public meeting here 2 weeks before. The supervisor was very clear he wasn't supportive of option 3, but appreciated the discussion. We also shared with the supervisor that if we go forward as a city on it, the actual work will begin in the summer of 2010. And if there needed to be workout time and questions answered and understandings more clearly understood, that my staff, city staff, and the county staff would work on those issues and on those questions. So before staff speaks, Mr. Alarcon, just for the record, I'd like to see if I can get your support. Mr. Smith and I went through all the other issues on the agenda, and that is we have moved forward item 1, item 2, item 7, item 3, 4, 5, 6, and we continued item 8 for 30 days.
Did Mr. Smith?
Yes. Maybe support on that?
I'll do it anyway.
Great. Unanimously, by committee of all those other items for the record. Please react to what you've heard the community say and give us an update of where we think we are.
Let me start. Adel Hashkhalil, Assistant Director for Bureau of Sanitation. Councilman, thank you for your leadership and for setting up the meeting with the supervisor and the staff. I think we've had good discussion. Although we could not get an agreement, I think there was some discussion as to the issues. And really, if you look at some of the concerns echoed at the meeting that we had with the county staff, it's the potential impact on traffic, especially if our construction coincides with the developments that are occurring in the area. So they were concerned about traffic impacts, construction impacts, sequencing, and other things. And they still, as you mentioned, do not agree that this is the best alternative. One thing I want to stress, in any public works project, there is always impacts. And those impacts are usually mitigated. So in the EIR, when we talk about project impacts such as potential settlement or potential vibration, those are things that we have to disclose that the construction activity could cause these things. However, there are mitigation measures that are included to prevent these from becoming excessive and causing problems. So although we disclose that there is vibration or noise, there's measures that we take to mitigate the noise and the vibration. Although the construction may cause impact to traffic, there's traffic plans that we implement to mitigate those things. So if there is impact disclosed in the IR, it doesn't mean that those will be permanent. There's some of them are overriding considerations that usually cannot be mitigated, but most of these things can be worked out. So one thing that we agreed with the county is that we will continue dialogue and discussion, and we're waiting for some communication from the staff, and we will work with them and meet with them hopefully next week to really pinpoint to the issues, and maybe we can work things such as sequencing of construction, the spacing between the openings as we do construction, how many open shafts are open at one time to minimize impact, traffic, how is traffic going to be detoured, and sequencing with the construction of other things occurring at the same time. So that's a commitment that we made, and we will do that, and we're working with the county to have that meeting. One thing I want to note is this project it's not an open trench project. This is not a project that you are opening the entire street. This is a micro tunneling project where you have an opening every 2,000 feet or so, and that usually takes 2 lanes of traffic, and that's basically spaced you need at least 2 to have 1 pass. We're proposing 3 at one time to expedite construction, but that could be adjusted. But it takes longer usually to do the project if you have 2 only at one time, and then you have to open another one. But we're willing to look at that one. But there's no open construction throughout the project. These are localized open shafts, and we were going to be doing micro tunneling between these shafts. And we will ensure there is access at all times. And that's why really Via Marina provides one that has the least impact from access and traffic, as we discussed last time. There's a huge concern from EPA and the regional board at delay on this project. I know we were put on notice at the last meeting by the executive officer of the regional board and by EPA Region 9 that we are operating on borrowed time. So I want to make sure we all understand that there's an urgency, and I appreciate that all the community's comments here today, that they really understand the urgency. We appreciate that. And one thing I want to communicate on behalf of the Department of Public Works is that we understand the concern from the community. We understand what it means to have construction in the vicinity of a home. We will do everything we can to minimize impact. I mean, we want to do a good job. But this is part of improving the quality of life in that community, because when we talk about impact to businesses or to impact to residences, if the force main fails, that impact is going to be 100 of folds more than this interim construction impact that we're talking about. The last thing we want is to have this force main fail, because that will be a huge disaster for all of us, and none of us want to have this.
Okay, what about the gentleman's comment about a fourth route?
Usually, I'll have Jim address it, but usually you carry projects through the EIR. You cannot carry every alternative through the process. You select few. But I'll have Jim go through the process and how we selected the three, what we call most feasible alternatives.
Thank you for your report.
Jim Doty, Bureau of Engineering. Well, we've gone through the process of developing this, so I won't go into that further. But with respect specifically to using the west bank of Ballona Lagoon, what that would in fact do is trade off some traffic circulation impacts for impacts on a sensitive habitat area. I don't see that as sufficiently meritorious for us to go back and examine that in detail. Ballona Lagoon is a significant ecological habitat area, and I'm sure that the resource agencies and the special interest groups that are fond of that area would fight every bit as hard on that issue as any other group. It's just not a superior alternative, and we have not taken it further than just back of the envelope kind of looking. We did at the very beginning consider using the Ballona Lagoon property. Would you like me to address other concerns or just specifically?
Over here is your
No, we're talking about to the left, Ballona Lagoon is right across. You're pointing to Delray Lagoon. If you go directly north across the entrance channels, that blue stripe there, that's Ballona Lagoon.
Yeah, yeah.
And the city owns most of the west bank, and is currently trying to complete a project to do habitat restoration along that area.
Appreciate that. Please, go ahead. You have to go to the mic. This is an extraordinary opportunity.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I want to point out the fact that this is an area where the city has been seeking to, and it actually has had a permit lapse, to do a restoration project of that embankment. And so therefore, it seems to me that this construction project could be combined with the restoration project. You have two sides of the embankment. The fourth alternative that I described would only affect one side of the embankment, so that while there might be a temporary dislocation of a portion of the sensitive habitat area, I would think that the environmental groups that were opposed to the beach might see this as a more reasonable alternative, because after all, it is on the beach where there's the least turn area. There is no specific thing there. So I just want to correct the impression that was created.
Happy to hear you say that. Any response to that?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The legal requirement of CEQA is to look at a reasonable range of alternatives, which we did. If new information comes to light indicating that there is an alternative that would be less impactful than the proposed project, then we would need to look at that. We do not view using the west bank of an environmentally sensitive habitat area as less environmentally impactful than going down Via Marina, although they trigger different issues.
So when you say new information, the challenge would be to these folks then to go get some of the environmental groups, particularly the Ballona wetlands groups, to come forward and say, we're willing to talk about that.
I try to avoid inviting people to attack the documents I offer.
No, I'm not asking them to attack the documents. I'm saying if they want us to consider that, the reason you reject it is because your presumption that the environmental groups will be opposed to it, and I think that's a correct presumption. So the challenge to them is if they think that it's a better alternative, then go get the support for it. But you've rejected it, and I would think you're right in saying the environmental groups are going to oppose it, because I know those groups, and they're going to oppose it. But
Member, not to be argumentative or nitpicking, but in fact, from my point of view, it's the actual issue, it's the impact on the resource that would be of concern. I merely point out that if people believe that would be a quicker and simpler solution, there are people that have their sides too.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If I may,
please.
Sean Zahedi with the Bureau of Engineering. As far as the Bayona Lagoon is concerned, there are serious constructability issues also.
I was going to get to that.
We need to locate shafts in order to push the pipe through, and it may look good on a little
Flat
map,
map, yeah.
but when you get to the field, it's a near impossibility. So that's, as Jim indicated, that was the reason why that option was discarded at the beginning of our analysis.
As Mr. Levine pointed out, he pointed out that we should look at using the west bank of the lagoon down to Topsail, but then of course we'd have to come back out on the street at Topsail. The biggest problem to solve on the Pacific Avenue route is how to place a construction shaft at the intersection of Via Marina and Pacific Avenue, where Pacific Avenue hits the north side of the Marina entrance channel. We need to have a construction shaft there in order to get underneath the Marina entrance channel in Bayona Creek. That shaft, if we have to put it in the vicinity of the end of Pacific Avenue, would essentially block the traffic link between the Marina Peninsula and the Marina Del Rey.
And this would be the last extraordinary opportunity. Please come up and make your last comment on that. I'm as open as I can be in this whole process, but this will be the last comment.
You have no idea how much I appreciate this.
Okay.
Thank you. Nancy Vernon Marino. The environmentally superior alternative that was identified in the FEIR is not a microtunneling on the West Bank. It is a deep tunneling operation, and none of this applies. And I have not seen or heard any argument against that has the least impact. So I would
be
like
happy
to
to
hear
get
that
to that.
argument.
Yes, respond to that right now.
Sean Zahedi again, Bureau of Engineering. The mine tunneling operation is a man-entry operation. Its advantages are that you need basically two shafts at the beginning and at the end of the alignment. The problems that we have with it is the following. The type of machinery that is available today can only mine a tunnel of a minimum diameter 10 feet. Our pipe is only 5 feet in diameter. We don't have the machinery to man it, that with someone going in the tunnel with the machine that could drill a 5-foot hole. So we will have a small pipe in a big space, and we don't know what to do with the void space. We can't just let it stay like that because the pipe is going to float. You can't really grout the space because it's going to involve an enormous amount of grout to fill that tunnel. So that's the main reason why that particular option was discarded, and also the cost is going to be 50% more with mine tunneling if we found a way to deal with this, with the oversized tunnel somehow. The cost is going to be a time and a half, and the duration is going to be longer also. So that is the reason why that option wasn't selected.
So in summary, the deep mine tunnel following the Pacific Avenue alignment would be and is the environmentally superior alternative. However, it is not feasible to implement that alternative because it would be too costly, take too long to construct, and as you say, we had some other issues.
There are also
engineering concerns.
Anybody else want to comment from staff?
Chris, and just for the benefit of the audience, could you explain CEQA requirements that environmentally preferred doesn't mean best?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Correct, and that's one of the conundrums. There's sort of a two-step process that you have to go through. The first step is feasibility and infeasibility, and infeasibility in the CEQA code sections is a pretty broad infeasibility. It can be financially infeasible. It cannot meet your project alternatives. It can be a policy decision. So once you deem it infeasible, then it becomes, okay, which are the other ones that are feasible? And among all of those alternatives, it doesn't mean that there are going to necessarily be less environmental impacts according by one route or another route, and you are not legally mandated to do it as long as you can find that there are conditions which can be overridden by findings, and you obviously would have to make findings on whichever alternative. And in the three alternatives that are in front of you, there are going to be people and individuals and groups that are going to oppose one, two, or three of these alternatives, and unfortunately it rests upon the shoulders of the legislative body of the city to pick what you believe based on all of the evidence in front of you. And the adequacy of the EIR, with all due respect to the speakers, it rises or falls whether you pick alternative 1, alternative 2, or alternative 3. It really doesn't matter. The same issues are in front of you, the same environmental impacts are in front of you, and whether it's adequate or not is not going to change depending on which alternative you do. Either the facts are there or they're not there. And with all due respect, I believe that in this particular instance, we're talking about a project that has been discussed, massaged, engineered for literally almost 15 years that I'm aware of. So, I mean, this is a project that's been around for a long, long time, and what you have in front of you is the best efforts from all of the city staff to provide you with all of the information to make the decision as to one of these three alternatives.
I'm about to let take action, but I'm going to, against my word, one more comment, Aaron. You have to go to the mic.
Just a question.
And state your name for the record.
And thank you for obliging me. The question was, there was a comment that at the end of Pacific, I think at Via Marina, you had to build a shaft and there wasn't room at that location. The question I have is, where is that shaft going to be built in the Via Marina alignment? I thought it was going to be on a public parking lot controlled by the county, but that's not right-of-way, right? I mean, that you need the county's permission to do that? Okay, that was my question.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay.
There are alternatives. I mean, in addition to the county's permission, if the county were to deny us permission, we could condemn a temporary construction easement in that. And if we could demonstrate, that even though we are two public entities, that we had a greater public purpose for that, and in this particular instance, we're talking about a tunnel that is ultimately underground, the permanent structure. The temporary structure above ground would be temporary, and it would just be a matter of, I believe, coming to an agreeable sum of money to compensate them for the loss of the parking spaces. But I don't believe that they would be able to demonstrate that maintaining that parking lot is a superior right of a governmental entity relative to our trying to build a wastewater.
I appreciate that. I really do. It's just in the context of the local coastal program model. It's not like, as you know, elsewhere like in East LA or places not regulated under the Coastal Act. There's, you have to find conformity with the LCP, so it's just, it all speaks to the fact. I just hope we can work with the county and work out so that's it. That's all. Thank you.
Councilmember, just to add one comment, I think we've heard a lot of comments about we don't have permits for this, or we have not acquired property at this location. We don't have a project till the CIR is certified. We cannot go and acquire property. We cannot apply for a permit till this EIR is certified. We have a project until the city council has blessed the EIR. So I want to make sure that we have done everything that we need to do till now. Once the EIR is certified, then we go to the next step of applying for permits and acquiring property, etc. Just want to make sure that clear.
Any questions? Fine. Mr. Smith.
The only other question I had is, this is obviously a very serious liquefaction area, and in light of earthquake issues, is any one of these more superior than the others as far as liquefaction goes? Would it be safer under the streets than on the beach, for instance? Is there some strength to the landform?
From an operation point of view, as Bureau of Sanitation, we're the first people to get the call if something goes wrong. Having it in the beach, I would say it's the one that gives us the most headache and concern. One is because it's next to the existing one. The second one is supposed to be a backup or a primary one, and the other old one is a backup after it's being renewed. To have them next to each other, that close to the beach and to the ocean, gives us a lot of concern. So I would speak to that. And that's how I would address that one
So the
from
two
just now.
northerns would be more preferred.
The further north you go, to me, I would say the more stable that you get. The whole area is under groundwater, so that's a concern.
And,
Like that.
Go ahead.
Okay. I want to thank you for bringing that issue up, because there's several people that have provided comments that, from their comments, it sounds like they've misunderstood the issue. Constructing the sewer will not change the risk of the area to liquefaction. The concern with liquefaction is the danger of damage to the sewer should liquefaction occur. And that risk is throughout the area, not just via Marina. And we have designed solutions to address that. It will not be a significant impact.
Okay, we've had a very thorough analysis again. I want to thank the four gentlemen here. Do I have a motion to move forward this to council?
So moved.
So do I have a second? Absolutely. A second. It's unanimous, and when will we put this before the council?
With any luck, by no later than the 17th. It will depend on my workload and a number of other impacts.
No, the goal is definitely before the 17th or the 17th.
I will make all efforts to get it before the 17th, but 17th at the latest we can resolve this.
Maybe a longer. Okay, and I want to thank community, everybody's positions and comments and interaction. It was very healthy, continued discussion. I appreciate city staff for their outreach over the last 2 weeks. And I want to especially thank my colleague Don Kanabe for the time and energy that his staff put in and their commitment to meet back. And I want to ask city staff that by the 17th, as part of your working notes that will be with this motion, that you put in the further discussions that you've had with the county, that you put in the answers to the questions that the county brings up to you, so that we have clarity on that cooperative status of moving forward, working with them to resolve whatever issues we have, and that by the time we start the job in July or June of 2010, that it doesn't necessarily mean approval, it means on the same wavelength, understanding, and all input has been clearly gotten from everyone. But I do want the initial comments of what happens in your next week's meeting as part of the action we take to the council. Okay? Thank you all. Very good. Great. Any other issues, Mr. Clerk there?
No other issues.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Meeting's over.